Berger. Barnes! It's raining goals at Anfield tonight.
And I remember when he had a serious injury and then he came back into the team as a central midfield player. I think for several years he was central midfield and people said, oh, he's lost his pace and that. But he didn't need pace in the position he was playing. He was actually played like a Brazilian called Dunga he used to play. And he didn't, his vision in the middle of midfield was unbelievable. And I think I saw him miscontrol the ball once in 7 years. You know, his first touch was immaculate, and he could always pick up that pass.
Oh, look at Barnes there. They're waiting for the pullback. Beardsley! Oh!
I mean, John Barnes, it's difficult to explain how good he was, to be honest. I mean, he was on a different level to even, you know, you're playing with top players every day, but he was on a different level.
I think he's rightfully remembered as one of the greatest players of modern-day Liverpool.
I know Dalglish brought other things to the team, but the most exciting player I ever thought was John Barnes.
When he played here, I mean, I would have rated him probably one of the best players in Britain, and probably go into Europe then.
I just wish Digger had got a chance to perform in a European Cup final at that stage. That's my one regret with John Barnes.
From probably 87 to 1991, he was the best player in Britain and probably in the best 4 or 5 players in the world.
Besant now, Barnes with a goal to aim at. Is it going to go in for John Barnes? Besant roaring, can't keep it out, and Barnes has scored an extraordinary goal.
Well, of course, it's a tremendous honour because Liverpool have had great players down the years. I think that anyone under 45, as I am, are at a bit of an advantage because over the years Liverpool have had some fantastic players. And I suppose, you know, the generation of the 90s, 80s, 90s, you probably have more people voting than the generation of the 60s and 70s. So, you know, I'm very surprised at that, but I think that age has something to do with it. You'll see the younger players probably getting up there. But over the years, Liverpool have had some fantastic players. I mean, you know, and to even be in the top 20, never mind the top 10, is a fantastic honour.
There's still 4 to be announced yet as we count down to number 1. But some of the players who've come behind you, so you've finished ahead of them, Graham Souness, Roger Hunt, Ian Callaghan.
Well, I mean, you know, once again, all great players, but apart from Graham Souness, they played in the 60s, and I suppose, you know, people in the 60s, you know, people probably don't get as many votes from people in the 60s. You know, that's why this is, once again, as I say, it's a fantastic honour, but it could be a little bit warped in terms of who the actual voters are. So, but, you know, Graham Souness is a great player. I mean, I was there for 10 years and at Liverpool, and it was a fantastic time for me. So, you know, to be even classed ahead of them, and of course, Graham Souness is a maybe even triple European Cup winner. I don't know how many, he's won it at least twice. So, you know, to be even mentioned in the same breath as people like that, you know, is fantastic.
Have you got a personal favourite memory from your whole time at Liverpool? Is there anything that sticks out? Just one moment?
The one moment that actually does stick out is the game against QPR here where we won 4-0 and I scored 2 goals. And QPR at the time were second in the league, might even been top, but we were very, very close. And, you know, it was like, well, we're going to come to it. Obviously, they weren't saying it, but, you know, the whole thing was like, you know, battle of the champions, who's going to win, and we really stamped our authority on the league in that performance here against Queen's Park Rangers. Secondly, I think that it was Ian Rush's first game back to actually watch. He was in the stand watching, and I suppose it was in a strange sort of way. I suppose we all felt under pressure. We all felt, never mind the 40-odd thousand Liverpool fans, Ian Rush was here watching myself, Peter Beardsley, John Aldridge and Ray Houghton type of thing, and it was like he's coming to see how we play to you know, now that he's there anymore, let's see what these boys can do type of thing. And it was just a fantastic performance. So, from an individual perspective, I scored 2 goals against David Seaman, which is always nice, and to score against David. And the fact that we'd beaten QPR, so that is the memory that sticks out.
There's 4 players still to be unveiled. I mean, I'll just name them. I won't name them in any particular order, but you
want me to name them? Are you going to test me?
You can guess. You can have a guess who are the top 4.
Kenny Dalglish should be 1.
Ian
Rush will be 1.
He's in there.
Kevin Keegan would be 1.
He's not in there.
Okay. Well, Ian Rush, Kenny Dalglish, Steven Gerrard.
He's in there.
There you go. And the last one, I would actually have Alan Hansen.
He's actually come up already. Well, Robbie Fowler completes the 4.
All right, okay.
Can you just talk a little bit about each of those players? Robbie Fowler, I mean, you helped nurture through?
Yeah, well, Robbie Fowler was just a fantastic goal scorer. And in fact, Robbie Fowler, for me, is the most, since Ian Rush, is the most natural goal scorer. He's the most natural goal scorer at the club now. Obviously with Robbie's injuries and his fitness means that he's made, particularly this day and age where you really do have to be fit to score goals, in terms of your movement and your pace and stuff like that. But in terms of your natural finishing ability, left foot, right foot, head, tapping, 30-yarders, Alan Shearer, whoever else you want to say who's played in the last 10 years, Robbie Fowler has been, even people who have scored, may have scored more goals than Robbie. Robbie would be the most natural finisher around in the last 10, 15 years.
Kenny Dalglish?
Well, Kenny was just the greatest player Liverpool have ever had, as far as I'm concerned, because, you know, his awareness, his ability, and it was strange because I remember playing against Kenny and thinking what a great player he was, and then coming to Liverpool, and when he was the manager, he would always join in the five-a-sides. And he was the worst five-a-side player in the world. Because Kenny remembered what he was like when he was a fantastic player and he's a great player. So Kenny still tried to do the things he did when he was young and he couldn't, but you couldn't tell him. You know, he would still try and do it. And he would try the most ridiculous passes and ridiculous things that once upon a time would come up, but they're not coming off anymore, but he would still, because of his confidence, still try to do it. But, you know, he's just intelligent as a footballer. Very, very intelligent footballer. For someone who, you may say Kenny may not have the greatest skill if you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, not the greatest pace if you look at Ian Rush. His finishing ability is not the greatest finisher. I mean, he'll still score his goals, but that's not his thing. His thing is more of a link play like Peter Beardsley. But his intelligence just made him so special, you know, and I like intelligent footballers, and he was just fantastic, most intelligent player.
Ian Rush?
Now, I had to mention Ian, because I mentioned Robbie in the last 10, 15 years, but Ian Rush is from my era, and he would be the greatest centre forward I've ever played with or I've ever seen. Only because when you talk about goal scorers, and people talk about who's a better goal scorer, Robbie Fowler's included in this, Alan Shearer, Gary Lineker, over the years you've always had him. And the way I see it is that you look at someone and you say, right, who's the greatest goal scorer? They're all scoring 30 goals a season. They're all scoring 25, 30 goals a season. Some goals may be better than others, some may be quicker, some may be faster, headers, tap-ins, whatever. But they're all scoring 25 to 30 goals a season. So how do you then separate them if they're all scoring the same amount of goals? And I look at what else they do for the team. And for me, Ian Rush was just the most selfless player from a centre-forward's point of view, because centre-forwards are supposed to be quite greedy and quite selfish. But the work he put in closing down the back four, he was our best defender. In fact, in five-a-sides, he used to play at the back and you couldn't get past him. So when he closed the goalkeeping down, closed the defenders down, dropped back into midfield to intercept balls, as well as scoring his goals, that's what sets him aside.
And the last of the four is Steven Gerrard.
Well, Steven Gerrard is the complete midfield player for me. Complete midfield player. Graham Souness is probably the one that you would liken him to, but he's probably more attack-minded than Graham Souness. His passing is as good, but he can get forward and take people on and score goals. He can also defend. And also, I think the importance of Steven Gerrard is really because of how, and I won't say single-handedly, because I don't believe in anyone doing anything from a team perspective single-handedly. But if you look at the FA Cup last year, the Champions League, where Liverpool probably aren't as good as the other teams, but he has made them that good.
Steven Gerrard's won everything bar the Premiership so far, and he's only the age that Kenny Dalglish was when he actually joined Liverpool. Do you think Steven could go on to become maybe Liverpool's best ever player?
Well, it really depends on how Liverpool does, because as much as you can be the best ever player, I think it really depends on the stature of the team. I mean, Phil Neal has won 4 European Cups, which is 4 Champions Leagues and 8 Premier League medals. You know, is Steven going to do that? Probably not. So it depends on what you mean in terms of best ever player, in terms of winning things or in terms of just being a great player, because he already is, as you say, in the top 4 of being the greatest player. So as to whether he's going to be number 1, that really depends on how far Liverpool goes.
And of those 4, who do you think will be number 1?
Who do I think should be number 1 or who do I think will be number 1?
Both.
Well, I think Kenny Dalglish should be number 1. But it wouldn't surprise me if Steven Gerrard's number 1, because obviously people are voting now, and as I said when I talked about myself, obviously, you know, because people in the 60s weren't voting. So if you remember Billy Little, for example, who could be number 1, but obviously, you know, those people aren't voting now. So it wouldn't surprise me if Steven Gerrard's number 1, but I would think it will be between those two.